Welcome to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. And this week's Thoughtful Thursday is a bit of a part two to yesterday's Wellness Wednesday, where I was talking about healing being a partnership, being a relationship between the patient or the client and the practitioner. And in today's episode, I wanted to talk about 5 reasons not to trust a practitioner. Now, I mean this seriously, but I also mean this in good humor as well. I wanted to be a little bit provocative in places, but I do think there are really important points in this video. For anyone on a kind of healing path, particularly from a chronic condition, you end up working with, the chances are, a lot of different practitioners with different specialities. And it can feel like a really difficult journey to navigate. And really, like, how do you assess whether somebody is a good fit? How do you assess whether somebody's really got the skills to be able to help and support you? And this is by no means an extensive list. As I was working on a list of 5, I wanted to keep this kind of relatively short and sweet. I was coming up with a I could have a probably 20 point list, but I think these are some of the most important things. The first reason to not trust a practitioner is they use words like cure or guarantee or 100% success rate. Now, there are certain medical procedures that do have a pretty much 100% success rate. And my point is not that isn't possible. My point, though, is when you're dealing with complex chronic illnesses, the fact that someone's using words like cure or guarantee or 100% success, that is a clear sign that there is something off in what's going on. Now, it may be that person's outright lying. It may be that they know that's not the case. It may also just be a classic example of what I talked about last week in confirmation bias, that someone is just negating and deleting all of the information that contradicts their perspective that everyone they help is making a full recovery or whatever it may be. Also, claims of 95% recovery, to me, is the same category. It's still, when you're talking about complex conditions, it sounds too good to be true. It normally is too good to be true. And you know, some of these words these days, at least with advertising standards and stuff, like, they're not okay. People shouldn't be making claims that can't be backed up. It's one of the reasons why I go to great lengths in videos to make the point we don't have all the answers, and we do the best work that we can. But inevitably, we're working with complex conditions that have lots of facets. And that's the second point. So first one is people that use words like cure or guarantee or 95 or 100% success rate. The second one is people that claim to have all the answers. So again, I'm talking about chronic complex conditions. But when someone gives the impression that, like, let's say you're working with a practitioner, maybe you're making progress, and then you talk about something else that you're doing, which is not directly contradicting what they're doing, and their position is, oh no, this is the only thing you need to be doing. This thing that I'm doing has all the answers. It's complete. It's a perfect model. That's another sign that you probably shouldn't be trusting someone. Now, I think sometimes an unreasonable expectation that is made of practitioners is that they have nuanced understanding of everything else that's out there, and that's not realistic. But I do think it's important for practitioners to have a healthy respect for remembering that we don't know what we don't know. What I mean by that is the realization that there's lots of other methodologies and perspectives that may also be really valid, and our limited knowledge doesn't give us enough to make a full assessment of those things. Now, that's not to say that you can't have an opinion, and that's not to say that sometimes you might want to steer someone in a certain direction because of other people you've worked with and experiences that those people have had. But when someone is claiming that they have all of the answers and you just have to kind of believe and stick with their approach, rarely is that a good sign. The third reason to not trust a practitioner is they make you feel like it's your fault when things are not working. Now, if things are not going to plan, in my mind, there are 3 things that can be blamed. There's the practitioner, there's the methodology the practitioner's working with, or there's the client that's, the patient that's working through that methodology. And there's all kinds of language in, particularly in psychotherapy and psychology models. There's no such thing. The famous joke in psychotherapy is, how many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb has to want to change. Boom, boom. It's a kind of, I think, a really dangerous perspective to take, to say, well, this isn't working because it's your fault. You're not doing it right. Now, it may be that the client has some resistance, and we'll do a video on resistance at some point. I'm sure there's all kinds of reasons why people resist that are completely valid and understandable reasons. But I would much rather somebody comes away with the perspective that it was the wrong methodology, or I wasn't the best practitioner to work with that. That's not to say there aren't times when people do need to take more accountability and more responsibility. But if someone comes to therapeutic work and something doesn't work for them, and then on the other side of it, they feel like it's their fault it didn't work, they're now worse off than they were at the start. So when you're made to feel like it's your fault, like you're just not doing it enough, or you're not applying it effectively, even if there's some validity in that, someone that's kind of leaning on you feeling that way, to me, that's another reason not to trust someone. Linked to this, a practitioner that is disrespectful of other practitioners' work. I think it's entirely healthy. I have all kinds of opinions, some of which come out on this blog and some don't. But I have all kinds of opinions about other methodologies, other approaches. And I think that's completely healthy. And if they haven't got opinions, then, get some opinions. I think that's important. But it's possible to have an opinion and still be respectful of other people's work. It's possible to steer somebody in a different direction because you've observed people go for a certain methodology and there'd be some limitations to that. But talking in a way which is fundamentally disrespectful is, again, it's just, to me, that's kind of like playground politics. Like, you don't like someone, so you feel the need to do a character assassination. And I believe that even when there are times that I feel that there are approaches that are quite unethical and are quite flawed, I might point to some of the things that I see that perhaps are not the right fit for that person, some of the reasons why. But when it starts to become a kind of disrespectful, I just think that the world doesn't need more people being disrespectful of other people. And it's possible to talk eloquently and sensitively about limitations of ways of doing things without it moving into a language which makes people feel offended or uncomfortable. And then the final of this list of 5 reasons not to trust a practitioner is they use fear tactics to motivate you. So it's like, if you don't do this approach, then this is going to happen in your life. If you don't stop, if you don't do this program, you are never going to recover. Or these are the 5 secrets that no one else knows that you must know for your life to be able to change. That kind of fear tactic marketing, I have an allergic reaction to it. It makes me want to run in the other direction. But I think, for me, a lot of the healing path is about calming down people's nervous systems and people coming into a more trusting, safe and supported space. So when you're using people's fears and vulnerabilities to try and motivate them to action, particularly if that action is to buy something that a practitioner is selling, I just feel very uncomfortable about that. That isn't to say that sometimes we need to motivate people by pointing out consequences or the future pain of not addressing something, but it's doing that in a way which is in the client's interest, not in the practitioner's interest. And it's doing it sensitively and it's doing it carefully. And I think those kinds of angles are much better used in kind of one-on-one work where you know the client and you can feel the edges of what they can take and what's appropriate, than just using that as a blanket way to try and get people to engage with something. So to summarize, anyone that be suspicious of anyone using words like cure or guarantee or 95% success rate or 100% success rate. Be suspicious of anyone claiming that they have all the answers. Be suspicious of anyone that makes you feel like it's your fault, like you're failing in the way that you're using an approach. Be suspicious of anyone that's being disrespectful towards other people's work. and people that are using fear tactics to motivate you, particularly to do things that are for their own gain in some way. And I want to end this video by saying I have an enormous respect and appreciation for I guess we're talking tens of thousands of practitioners that are working out there, particularly when people are going outside of kind of the comfort zone of traditional approaches where they've got guaranteed easy career paths. Maybe not easy career paths, but guaranteed career paths. It takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of passion for the work someone's doing. And I am, even when I work with patients where I can see that people they've worked with have been at the limits of their knowledge of certain conditions, I nearly always feel a great respect and admiration for people's attempts and intention to help the mic, to help and to support people. And, doing the Fatigue Super Conference earlier this year was just a great way to talk to dozens of experts and really feel my appreciation and admiration for other people's work that's out there. This is an amazing emerging field with so many people doing fantastic, great stuff. And like any great community, there are people which are sometimes behaving in ways which are not as skillful or as mature as they might be. So that was perhaps I should have said that bit at the start. That's really my frame around this. Be mindful of these things, look out for these things, but also remember there's a lot of great people doing great work. And it's a great. I find it a great privilege to work in this space. So tomorrow is, and I should say also below this video, if you're watching as a video, share your experiences. I don't want this to become a trash talk of bad practitioners, but share things that perhaps have been warning signs for you, or maybe share things that you've really liked about practitioners, things that perhaps have really endeared trust and made you feel supported. I'd love to hear people's experiences of working with different practitioners. Please don't name names. I don't want any public shaming of people. I think, again, that's not respectful. That's not to say there aren't times to call things out, but that's not the context of what I think is good in this context. Thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your experiences. Tomorrow is Feel Good Friday, and I'm slightly embarrassed. I don't know what's coming up this week's Feel Good Friday. I wanted to get slightly ahead this week on the videos for the editing team, and I haven't yet planned out Friday's episode. But whatever's coming tomorrow, it will make you feel good, I hope. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.